My name is Zoltán Rendes, and this is the fifth episode of We Are Endangered Species. Let me start with a personal note. I just came back from Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, a country which is responsible for 45% of all cocoa production in the world. This country should be thriving, but it's not. Almost 40% of the people are living below the poverty line. More than 40% are food insecure. Why? We take their cocoa and make money on it in our so-called civilized world. Meanwhile, the pollution is very high in the country because of the agricultural and processing sectors, and climate change is increasing temperatures, impacting the yields, making it harder to grow our precious cocoa. So just one question. How many times can we betray the good people of Ivory Coast? Read more about that on our website at weareendangeredspecies.com. If you have a question or a suggestion, send it to info@weareendangeredspecies.com. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and now on TikTok for more content. And now, from Côte d'Ivoire to Côte d'Azur, my friend and partner Balázs Just is joining us from Cap d'Iel in France, and he will tell us why we are endangered species today.
And today's reason we are an endangered species is traitors. A traitor is someone who betrays another's trust or is false to an obligation or duty. Well, in that case, we are all traitors. We've placed our trust in each other being people from all walks of life who work at the bakery or big pharma or the guy who reads your local news or your favorite influencer or kindergarten teacher. And we all collectively said, it's going to be fine. But no, it won't. It would have been our duty and obligation to face the reality of the situation early on and say, guys, this is it. We did this to each other, to the atmosphere, to the planktons, to the now extinct passenger pigeon or Javan tiger, and the planet. We are the ones who endangered ourselves as a species, and we betrayed ourselves and our home. I've spent the past weeks at the Cannes Film Festival for work, and the message was this. The world is burning, but we should watch movies. And I don't blame them. It's a tale as old as time, consistent with what we've been telling each other for millennia. Everything will be alright in the end. If it's not alright, it's not the end. The thing of it is, though, we've always had the essential elements of life. But how will you kiss goodnight to your kids after telling them the tale where they all live happily ever after without oxygen and water? Here to discuss the matter further is a man who has raised funds for film production, developed and built several leading film production studios in Europe. He co-founded Global Environment Media and is president of the Global Environment Movement Association. He is a successful businessman, environmentalist, futurist, and inspiring multilingual keynote speaker. He lives full-time in Monaco and has 5 children. Christian Moore is with us today. So how do you go about telling people this is it? There's no alternative. I mean, it seems like we've tried every method and then it's just not getting through. What's your strategy to get through to people?
It was very much that, but taking more of a positive approach instead of the dooms approach. I think we've all been desensitized via media, via films, and stories of disaster and apocalypse. And I think this isn't as frightening to people in this century as much as it would have been before. It's a very difficult proposition to try and explain or get people to fully believe that there are some serious issues that are taking place, and some of them are actually unstoppable, but can be mitigated. The messaging is confused, and I think people don't have a clear understanding, and it's also not built in. So fear doesn't necessarily, fear-mongering, in my experience with this, hasn't really worked. It can gain someone's attention for a few moments, but easily dismissed because people don't want to believe things they don't like.
Can I cut in here with my very naive question? I always ask. And I think Balázs is getting bored of this question already. But this is my naive question, and I'm pushing it for a reason. Hollywood and the entertainment business loves disasters, loves close and present danger. And we fell in love with zombies, we fell in love with vampires, anything goes. Now AI, even the new Mission Impossible is about AI. Turns out all Mission Impossibles were about AI destroying or trying to destroy the world. Uh, Entertainment business in Hollywood especially is famous for standing in a fight for a cause, like for racial inclusion, for LGBTQ. They pushed it into content so it becomes a topic for the people. But climate change is somewhat on the side still. Why don't we do more entertainment movies? Why isn't it a topic in sitcoms? Uh, why it's still looked at leprosy in a way for the entertainment industry? Do you have an answer for that?
Why the entertainment industry likes all of this?
But why don't they why don't they push the agenda of climate change?
They have tried. There have been films, The Day After Tomorrow, and films of similar nature. They do try and push content in. That was one of the strategies of some foundations' work, was to actually have content relating to this. But it's so subtle, and again, it's not. There's not much efficacy to it when you apply something subliminal like that in one-offs, and certainly when you're looking at it as entertainment. I think one of the ideas, in my experience from what I've seen, and certainly when we set up Global Environment Media, was that collecting all the information, we assumed people would want to know and educate themselves, and we decided to do that in short formats, so short videos that burst information, and then they can go off and learn more about it with infographics and scientific papers. Very dishearteningly, people don't care nearly as much as I thought they would, and certainly not as much as I do. And I think for the most part, media has a big part to play in this, but it's also seeded in our education from the beginning, and conflicting messages which have come out. And climate change is just one element that incorporates a lot of things, including sea level rise and biodiversity issues, and the water temperature and desalination that's taking place, plus contamination of biospecies. That's with all the ships and container ships that release their ballast tanks, dredging of the sea, and then that's part of an issue that's far greater, which is how we're looking at this planet as a whole, and certainly how we're looking at life on land, which has a direct effect on the impact. And I think people, if it's up to them, they're very happy to live their lives, get in their cars, go to the supermarket, pick up the kids. They look outside, the sun is blue, the sky is blue, the sun is shining, the water looks clean. It's a hard message to get across, to say, an orange isn't an orange.
What's your opinion and what's your experience? My experience, I talk a lot about this topic all over the world. My experience is, and I'm going to be blunt about it, that adults look at it as sensationalism, and they like to be involved in something which has to do something with green thing or a climate change, but they don't really care. They are generally very ignorant to the topic. While I tour schools, and the smaller the kids are, the more interested and the more involved they are in the topic. Do you have that experience in your life, that kids are they want their life to be better than what we have now?
Absolutely. I think there is a consciousness, but I think there's an ignorance that surrounds it too. Because one of the big parts to play are plastics. And you would think that despite it being factual, that I think there was a report that came out a year ago or 2 years ago, where the microplastics are so rampant, every human being eats roughly about a credit card of plastic a week. That's whether they eat it, drink it, fish are contaminated, and so forth. Am I feeling sick for it? Do I look any different? No. So it can't be real, or I don't want it to be real, or if it's there, well, it's not hurting me so far. But it increasingly will. And foresight is what we need when dealing with the environment. The changes are subtle, but it takes time. And as I said, I think, and this is from some of the interviews I've had with the heads of UNEP or other interagencies for the environment, it doesn't seem like we are going to be able to put a stop to what's happening already. So when people hear that, they kind of go, well, what's the point? A bubble we live in, I think. And we were speaking about this the other day.
Yeah, I was going to say that you and I talked about this yesterday, actually, uh, and you said a very interesting figure, which is, uh, Zoli, I don't know if you knew this, but now there's more plastic in the Mediterranean than fish. And but if you look out to the Côte d'Azur, it's still azure and it's still blue, so it can't be wrong. And when you go to the restaurant, you can still order your favorite fish and they'll serve it up. It's just that you don't know you're eating more plastic. And now, by the way, the World Health Organization has a optimal level of plastic for adults and for children. So now we've reached that level. And you know, you said the same thing that we keep saying, which is that fear mongering doesn't work. The nice approach, the mellow approach doesn't work. So what approach does work? I know you have a plan, which may or may not work, but I'd love for you to share that.
I think it's worth trying everything, right? If you don't succeed, try again, right? At different things, and not the same thing over and over again. That's not going to work. I think we live in a world where money talks and bullshit walks, and at the end of the day, to get people to change, you got to pay them. And if you could start right at the beginning, and this is a plan, an idea, it's something that interesting. Before going into it, it's amazing how we can also be disheartened as environmentalists or people who really put great effort into trying to make a difference and a good. It can become disheartening. I used to give speeches all over the world as well, and at different events, and I've started saying no because I just feel that it's just wasting my breath. It's not going to shift the needle, and I've got better things to do and maybe think on things a little bit differently. As such, going back to the idea that if you were able to create some kind of a fungible token that would be legitimized by corporations, responsible corporations, to not greenwash their money that they put into advertising and or environmental efforts, but to actually start changing people from the next generation, starting as children. And if you had a token by signing up, like to the Boy Scouts, this takes you all the way through, and the ultimate goal is paying for your all of your education, university, higher, and so forth. And if you started at primary and you had tasks, so everything from learning how to garden, appreciating the environment around you, mixed in with a whole other bunch of subjects, tasks for children to be able to accomplish as they go through. It can go into other areas as well, into learning about banking, and when you come out in the world, you actually understand what a mortgage is and what a loan is, and so you're preparing the next generation, but you're paying them to do it. And why would they do it? Well, a kid wouldn't do it because he doesn't want to do extra work or think about those things. The parents will push you into it, and why would they do it? Well, clearly, if they don't have to pay for your education, and certainly in the US, if you look at going to university, and if you put it all together, it can be in the hundreds of thousands. And so, if that's not an enticement to look after your generation, your future, and your offspring, to give them the best chances in life, that's where I think you can filter it in. But I think you can't teach an old dog new tricks, as an expression for the rest of us who've gone past that point, and ignorance, and a lot of the time that's it. If that was in place as a big scheme, I think you'd have a consensus of a generation that is far more aware of what sustainability means, what taking care of our environment means. Because when you say there's only 3% left of biodiversity, natural biodiversity, on this planet, on land, that's a very scary statistic. And I think it's time that maybe that fear should be pushed towards people putting money together to pay for a generation to actually have a better outcome than how we have, and certainly how we've been taking care of things.
Amazing plan. And I very much agree. We have been pushing projects with the slogan "Make money, save the planet," so which is very, very much up this alley of that people don't raise a finger if they have no profits in it. And but if I don't care, I don't think it's a sin to make money on making the world better. And I think in the business world, especially, this is a stigma if you say this. I usually say this out loud a lot of times. They don't like it. They like to stay on the wrong side of history because they got used to the wrong side of history, and they know that money will flow in until all the lights go out. And they don't want to change, but there is a lot of money to be made.
There's and maybe that's the other angle is once again money defining it. I mean, by taking care of the oceans and looking at what one can actually extrapolate from that, energy wise, food wise, as we have been doing, but in a more consolidated effort, there is a tremendous amount of money that can be generated from taking care of the environment, which also benefits the capitalistic purse.
You move a lot in these circles, so what I don't understand, someone being a relative outsider to this, is how they don't realize that once we all go extinct, there is no more profits to be made. That's it. So that kind of thinking, it just behooves me. I don't see how they don't
But
see it.
yeah, because I think you're missing one part there is that when you die, you can't take your money with you. And so while you're alive,
Aha.
aha,
So that's a very short term thinking, isn't it? Though.
of course it is. But
Okay.
but but at the end of the day, humanity hasn't been described as not selfish.
Also, we tend to not see past our own generation, maybe one or two down the line. But now that World War II has gone into the abyss, we are once again starting to tickle those war fancies to see what it's like again, because it's been a while.
And I think there's a beautiful truth in the fact that if you can bypass politics and have a general respect and a true understanding, you know, where my love for the environment comes is growing up in the mountains and seeing the beauty and being able to take walks and navigate and have fun and realize that nature is just absolutely phenomenal. But a National Geographic documentary is not going to do that if you're looking out the window and you're not seeing it or experiencing it. So experiences define what we like, and I think that when you don't have it, then it's just looking at the sea through a television, going to an aquarium, and you thinking, wow, this is just great. But saying it doesn't exist out there, it's only going to be left in here, I don't think that resonates. I don't think people actually believe it, or people just don't want to, or people are just too stupid to.
So, do you think it all starts with the family?
I think I
Because you
think
were raised in that
but
environment,
it
so
ha-
you
but it
you
but but it but it has to. You can't tell somebody you have to do this and you're going to pay more for it and you're just going to like it because we're telling you it's bad. So if you wanted to solve plastics, it would be spend a lot more money on products and packaging or rethink packaging. But globalization hasn't helped this out in many ways. And politicians and governments don't help. Certainly current administrations in the world that deny there is any problem. This doesn't help the issue when 5-6 years ago it was the biggest issue. Now it's kind of like gone, and everyone else has kind of treated it the same way.
While we are at the social circles, and you have a very colorful life and career and successful in many fields, and you obviously live a lively social life, real cosmopolitan life. Is it a topic at the parties, or do they look at you as a weirdo if you come up like, oh, this is Christian, like he has this environmentalist thing, but he's a nice guy.
That's right. That is right. I think I'm old enough now that Actually, I only start talking about it when I don't want to be reinvited again.
So they all know you have this expensive hobby and nobody understands why.
Exactly. No, I mean, I have to say, even for me, I've got to put my head up and look around and go outside and have a swim in the sea to reinvigorate my enthusiasm for this, because it is disheartening. It is extraordinarily disheartening. With my children, I'm very conscious at making them aware of this. They have it, but like most kids, they go with their friends, and it's a consensus. Humans are like herd mentality. If we're all thinking, and I believe that with all of the Hollywood, the negative war has been customized. It's really hard because we glorify it. We always have in some way, but now we've really put it on the school. They're with the video games. Kids are desensitized so much. Adults are desensitized so much. It's going to take a hell of a lot to shock us into it. I mean, but I think we're going to get there. I think I think maybe when the sea level rise does start to take in effect, and that's in the next 50 years, we're going to start to see massive change. That's inevitable, but that's a few feet. But if you take the entirety of it, I think it's like 887 feet of sea level rise if Greenland melts.
Yes. And one question about family, and I'm raising my kid the same way. He's very aware of what's happening. And I know you must be bored, but I have to ask this. Like, the resemblance is obvious when I look at you to your father. And so you, is it a legacy for you? Like, when was the first time when you met with the environmental problem? Was it family? Was it your father who
It was
was?
charity because of UNICEF, and my father drilled it into us that we must incorporate a certain amount of charity into everything we do. Not just giving money, but actually devoting time to things. And it makes you a better human being to do so. And as such, I took that on. The environment came about certainly when I moved here to Monaco with Prince Albert, and the efforts, which are so commendable. He was screaming in the early 90s in front of the UN General Assembly, there is a problem. Let's please start looking at it. We need to address it. It inspired me, the Albert II Foundation. I admire immensely and like working with them on the occasions that we have. And as such, that inspired Global Environment Media, and a passion to see that maybe a lot more of us with influence being able to jump up and down and try and create some awareness and influence can maybe shift the needle. And I think in part, there are parts of the world that have had immense effect by the efforts of organizations. And as such, that's why.
I was going to ask, can you go and just for those who don't know or hear about it for the first time, Global Environment Media? Because I also raised it in the opener, but what is it? Because you told me some amazing things that you came up with it, and it's just
Well, Global
mind-bogglingly
Environment
good.
Media. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it was you know, getting them. It was all about extenuating the messaging for the environment. How could we help? I don't know, create another foundation and try and raise money to, go and save a particular area and so on. There are so many foundations, and I hated the idea of, well, and I say this and I sound hypocritical, but creating a business of charity. And in this way, we were just looking at operations. We didn't go out and set this up to enrich ourselves, but we saw a whole, and we saw that with all of the efforts in the foundations and institutes and universities and studies, they try and create media content to create awareness for people to see the efforts that they're doing, the monies that's being raised, where's it's going. And that costs them, but then they don't know where to put it. It's shown at an event, and then maybe it's put online, and you have to find it. So we decided to consolidate all of the efforts from all the institutes, and we create a lot of partnerships and license agreements. We've got quite a few, close to 200, I believe. As such, we filled our content, broke it down, relevant information, topics from forests, oceans, biodiversity, life on Earth, sustainability, and climate change being one of the subjects as well. And then within there, disseminating that information into short format videos, creating a television channel. So we distribute it's an IPTV platform. So it's an over the top platform with content, scientific papers, infographics that link to each of the relevant videos to take you on a journey of learning. And that's what we did.
Absolutely amazing, and congratulations!
Yeah.
Like this is.
I wish more people paid attention.
I'm gonna give it to you. You are now my favorite James Bond.
Molasses.
Listen, what are your everyday habits that set you aside? What do you do to watch after the environment?
Learning, talking, and trying to find. That's a hard one for me personally. I think I can be as hypocritical as anybody when it comes down to it. None of us.
We all are. We all can be.
And but I see. I'm just always conscious. My kids see me, and if I walk down the street and there's a plastic bottle, there's plastic, I'll pick it up and take it to the nearest can. And they're like, "Oh, disgusting!" And it's like, yeah, well, no, it was disgusting whoever put it there. Recycling is a helpful thing, it's a good habit to get into. Is it going to shift the needle? Not really.
No, but it's a habit.
But
It's like
a habit.
I do the same thing.
Built in, so it's trying to do those things. Taking the time out of your day to actually understand something, read about the environment. Don't walk around ignorant. I think a lot of us. My biggest fear, and as I said this to you, Balash, is I think the greatest threat to humanity is a little knowledge. And I think that's going to be what is going to drive the stake through the heart, is that we're going to become an ignorant people that will react on the wrong information.
Actually, I had the privilege to do like half a day with the International Quorum of Motion Picture Producers, the IQ, and I kind of presented as a conversation starter the top 10 things which can make us go extinct in connection with climate change. And number one was human ignorance. So the most deaths are related to human ignorance from all the phenomena.
It always has been.
Excuse me?
It always has been.
Yes. It's and
from
it's
the Crusades, it's just to every war we've had, it's been either greed and pure ignorance.
We always talk about, and like I think it came up in every show so far, and that we need a fundamental mindset change. But my sad reality that there was, as you said now, there never has been a fundamental mindset change in humanity without the disaster or a war. So we only reset and change our mindset and daily habits when something disastrous happens to the world. Will we wait out this one while it all falls on us and then change our mindset? Or is there a chance, Christian? Do you see hope?
I would love to say yes. I think that, interestingly, I tend to agree with one of the senior elements at the UN. We were having a discussion on this, and as somebody who's devoted his life to the environment, he said, humanity will find a way to survive by adapting. But human suffering, unfortunately, is going to be seen like nothing ever seen before. And there's no avoiding that at this point. And is it entirely man-made? Possibly not. But it's certainly been helped along a lot. And so do I think there's hope? Unless there is a massive shift in the next generations, unfortunately, I think we're already heading to sea level rise is going to happen. I don't think we can coil back on that unless, there is no solution to that. But I think there's going to be mass migration, environmental migration that's going to take place with the temperatures shifting. The world is going a little topsy-turvy, and this is going to happen over the next, few hundred years. We're going to see this predominantly. But by then, maybe AI will fix it. Who knows?
Well, or AI will fix us.
It's becoming intelligent enough. I mean, we are where we would imagine 1,000 years in the future. Arthur C. Clarke certainly imagined AI being, at least that was in 2000. No, that was in 3001: Space Odyssey. You had the full scope of integration of AI, and we're watching it here now. Watching the ex-chairman and CEO of Google talk about this the other day, and it was fascinating because the leaps and jumps it's gone to. So maybe AI will outsmart us because we become pretty stupid, and maybe it'll figure out a solution. Just, I hope it's not the one Skynet did, because that was their solution.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking.
Well, I keep saying thank you to Siri. I don't know how much that helped.
You do, don't you?
Actually,
I tend to insult her a lot more.
yeah.
Well,
Well,
Christian,
you're
And her
buying
response
yourself a
is
one-way
so
ticket.
infuriating.
it's we kind of grew up in a world where nuclear threat was the biggest threat, and today I kind of wake up and I'm just waiting who will win this, making us go extinct: AI, nuclear, or climate change. Because this is the first year, actually, according to the studies, when the North Atlantic Stream, day after tomorrow, Jack Hole, Professor Jack Hole. So this is actually the first year when it can collapse and shut down completely, according to studies. So it's
Yeah.
and so we are basically living
And
in
we
a
all laughed at Roland Emmerich. Let me just add.
and
Well, I mean, I think the speed in which that film went was a little,
yes.
you know, how'd you go from, New York being under ice in like, a matter of, I mean, well, yeah, they did holes in space, right? Cooling things down. But I don't think a little fire burning books in a library would keep you alive.
So where do you see? So where do you see if this is the progress, and we keep going business as usual? Where do you see us in 10 years?
The planet's going to suffer even more and things will escalate further. You're not going to see drastic change, but it's going to be felt. It's the ripple effect. What we do today, what we consume today, what we throw in essence, into the seas today, the amount of cars we drive on the road and the tires that burn up and that rubber then diffuses, that's all part of the microplastic problems that we have, and it all runs off and it all ends up into the ocean. And there's only one ocean. It's one ocean. And so where are we going to be? I think the sooner we get a generation conscious and up and running and learning about this, maybe in 50 years, a larger part of this population will be with the intent of ensuring the protection and the respect one needs to have for this very tiny little place we call Earth in the grand scheme of things, and we have to really protect it. We are really very precarious. I think more people need to think about that for a second. How small we are in this vastness of infinity, and yet we're alive, and we are just taking it for granted because we think we just know better. We've come up with the solutions. There's a God, because we've told ourselves there is one, and maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But at the end of the day, I don't see him fixing things.
I always spiral into some corporate shaming or billionaire shaming in every episode. It's kind of, they expect me to do that today too. So there is the harsh truth of climate change, undeniable facts. We are looking at those facts, which are endangering not just lives, but GDP, which is way more important, of course, for people of money. Let's just put big corp and everyone who is involved in the big money thing. And then we add the ignorance. So these people, as I see it, are not just ignorant, but stepping on the gas in the direction of the apocalypse. And I think it's crucial, even if you do all what you can do for this topic, or Balaj, me, everyone we know who is involved in environmentalism, or let's just say, I love it way better when we say saving this world or saving the planet, saving our way of life. Maybe that cannot be saved, but
I don't think that can be said. That's gone.
even if we do all our parts, we are standing against the biggest mass of money on the other side. The biggest mass of money, which says to the people, which holds media, most of media, and which can say to the people that Zoltan or Balázs or Christian is fake news. and and we ended at politics, where we always end when we talk about big money, and then I'm happy to shame politicians any day, any hour, any time. So do we stand a chance against these guys? Don't they see that their bottom line will be hurt? Money will be hurt very soon. It's already hurt. And very soon, more and more of their revenues will be cut, not by me, not by you, not by competition, but climate change.
And the question is,
And, do we stand a chance?
of course, we stand a chance.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Not a great one, but yeah, we stand a chance. You know, I mean, I think the overall is the only people that can fix this is going to be us, and I'm not talking us three. I'm talking the planet, and business. Unfortunately, has to look at its sustainability. But how do you do that when you have shareholders to answer to, right? So this is the dire situation. Capitalism really doesn't allow or afford this to happen unless people say, this is what we want and we're prepared to do this for it. And that's only going to come through education and long-term education and play.
You just said it before as well, and I can't help but go back to it again. Capitalism inspires short-term thinking. Actually, it's a necessity, because you can't take your wallet to the grave. So you need to think in the short run, at least until the end of your lifespan. But now we are getting to the point where if some of those guys think to the end of their lifespans, then they might wind up, at the age of 80, 90, not being able to eat the steaks and enjoy breathing fresh air and drinking fresh water, because no amount of money will be able to buy that at that point, at some point.
But that hasn't happened yet. And it may or may not in everyone's mind, right? Because it still looks nice outside. It looks nice behind you, Bolash, I have to say.
Sorry?
You can still swim in the sea, so use that. You can run into the sea
Fair
and
point.
jump in, and the sea makes you connected in a level nothing else in this world makes you connected to
You
nature.
know, we've got to take care of it. You know, it's like the start of a documentary I did last year called Ocean Emergency, with Prince Albert narrating, and in the beginning it was written, take 2 breaths. One of those breaths comes from the ocean. And if you cut that one away, we're not going to be breathing anymore.
I have a stupid and naive question again, and you two guys move in of course film industry and entertainment circles. Like both of you attended the Cannes Film Festival recently. A lot of very famous, popular people, superstars, celebrities, influencers gather up, and you have been to way more of these events than me. I kind of get the shrieks from it by now. I had my share of that kind of life, and so there are a lot of celebrities, famous people who actually have an attitude towards the climate change, and they sometimes even push out an agenda or at least a message. Are these honest messages, or there is always a deal behind it, which is paid by some big money corporate or a movie coming up. So are celebrities conscious? Is there anyone honestly thinking that they can help with their bandwidth, their popularity? Do they do it?
Not all of them, but a good majority of them put their foot forward and put their efforts in. It's commendable, and if you can do something, do it. And the ones that do, wonderful.
Bola?
I
But I'd
agree.
like for the record to state that Bolash goes to far more events than I do.
Oh,
I
okay.
saw him in a tuxedo. He never saw me in one because I don't go to events.
He had a very good, very nice
True.
tuxedo this year. Like
That's.
that's a new one. That's a new
I
one.
have yet to
It's
see you in
very
a tuxedo.
Casablanca of you,
That's
that
true.
tuxedo, actually, I wanted to
Thank
say.
you.
Right.
Thank
Bolash
you.
is very suave, honestly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Now that we've managed to make me blush and embarrass myself, I wanna ask Randy if he's got any last minute questions.
I think I'm good. It's really inspiring, Christian, to meet you and to talk to you. And I just want to wish you all the strength and luck you need to do what you're doing and what you want to do in the future. And if I think we can say this together with Balaj, that if we can help in any way, we are here. And
Well, there we go. Well, listen, I'm happy to come back on, do this again, talk about subjects, and see maybe next time, maybe we'll have some more solutions up in play.
I wish.
Thank you for being with
Thank you.
us.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
In the 2004 disaster blockbuster, Jack Hall, played by Dennis Quaid, says to the UN, "The Northern Hemisphere owes its temperate climate to the North Atlantic current. Heat from the sun arrives at the equator and is carried north by the ocean. But global warming is melting the polar ice caps and disrupting this flow. Eventually, it will shut down, and when that happens, there goes our climate." 21 years ago, this movie was widely criticized by scientists for being scientifically inaccurate. They called it a fear-mongering, panic-triggering Hollywood exaggeration. Let's see if they were right. The climate of the Northern Hemisphere is indeed relying on the North Atlantic current, also known as the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, AMOC, which is the extension of the Gulf Stream, the heat pump which brings relatively mild weather to Europe and North America. So Jack was right about that one. Scientists also agreed that its slowing or shutting down would lead to considerable cooling in the Northern Hemisphere and warming and drought in the Southern Hemisphere, and would make coastal areas unlivable. So Jack was right about that too. Now here comes the tricky part. When will that happen, if it happens at all? Jack said that it could happen any day in the movie. Scientists have long warned us that this could eventually happen if we continue to do nothing about pollution. But the estimated timelines were measured in centuries. Now let's fast forward to 2021, when the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, suggested that AMOC is unlikely to collapse within the 21st century. But don't pop the champagne yet. 2 years ago, the Niels Bohr Institute and the Institute of Mathematical Sciences of the University of Copenhagen published their study in the journal Nature Communications based on the data of ocean surface temperatures near Greenland over a period of 150 years. Their model predicts with 95% certainty that AMOC will collapse sometime between 2025 and 2095, with the most probable time frame being in the mid-century. Last October, 42 climate scientists sent an open letter to the Nordic Council of Ministers warning them about the potential collapse of the AMOC and urging them to act quickly to avoid disastrous consequences to all life on Earth. So here we are in the present, burning the daytime and midnight oil and drilling for more, increasing our carbon footprint and ignoring Jack Hall's warning. Who, at the end of the day, was right? It took us more than 20 years to come to the same conclusion as a Hollywood blockbuster. Does anyone feel stupid? Well, I do. And now you can pop that champagne. If you're still in the mood, of course. Or rather, bring out the popcorn and let's watch how the movie plot of Life on Earth unfolds. Let's bet if Balaj will be able to go to the French Riviera in a couple of years, or it will be totally underwater and the remains will be a big ski resort. My bad is always on life and humanity, so you better spit out that popcorn and start doing something about it. Until next time, goodbye.